Evergrande Group is a company with sales of more than $500 billion, yet the company is failing. This is the fascinating story of the rise and fall of Evergrande Group and what we can learn from it. Hi guys, Stanley here. I'm the co-founder of valueinvestasia.com, an investment portal where we'll give you investment news and in-depth analysis of listed company every single week. So if you're new to this channel, remember to hit that subscribe button so you'll not miss out on any of our videos. Evergrande Group is one of the largest property companies in China and a Fortune 500 company. In recent weeks, it has been constantly on the news for all the wrong reasons though. The company is facing a serious liquidity issue and is on the verge of becoming the Lehman Brothers of China, aka the largest bankruptcy of the country. But how did the company end up in this troubling path? Is there signs along the way that this is always the ending that the company is heading towards? Today, let's look into the story of Evergrande Group and try to find some key lessons we can learn from. Evergrande Group is founded by Xu Jiayin. Although he created one of the largest property companies in China, Xu grew up very poor. Born in Henan in 1958, Xu's father is a war veteran from the Chinese Civil War. He was injured during the war and went to work in a factory after that. And Xu's mom died when he was very young. Xu was heading for a rather tough life while growing up. His prospects started only to improve when China reinstated the National College Entry Examination in 1977. Here, we caught the first glance of Xu being overly ambitious, a trait that will bring him immense success and also a key to his downfall. In his first examination attempt, he decided to try for the entry exam for Tsinghua University, the top university in China. Unfortunately, he failed. So he has to retry that again, but this time he lowered his target and tried for the Wuhan University of Science and Technology. After he graduated in 1982, he was assigned to work in Wuyang Iron and Steel Company. During that period, from interview with his past colleague, we can see a clearer picture of his character. People describe him as very intelligent, hardworking, and very sociable. These are all key characteristics that will help him build his empire later on. At the beginning, his career quickly advanced during the first few years, and by 1985, he was made director of the company. However, since then, his career stagnated for many years. After working for about a decade in the factory, he resigned. This is also a time when China is opening up and there are massive migration to the southern economic zones such as Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Hainan. So similarly, he decided to venture southward to Shenzhen as well. He founded a job in a trading company called Zhongda. He frequently Guangzhou during his work and also very quickly he rose up the ranks to become the president of a branch office. By 1994, the property sector in southern China has started to boom, and Zhongda company has decided to move into the property sector as well. And they asked Xu Jiayin to lead the charge into the property sector in Guangzhou. The first project that he did was called Zhudao Huayan or Zhudao Garden. But even before he began, he faced many problems. First, the company doesn't have a big fund to start this project, and also that the team has no real experience in property. But Xu Jiayin has a very good sense of the market, and he sensed that during that time, most developers are focusing on high-end properties, and he decided to go the complete opposite direction. So they planned for a low-price, small area apartment. And because they do not have enough funds, they have to turn over the project extremely fast in order to have enough cash to grow the business. Xu Jiayin pushed the team to complete the project within a year of its launching. One of the first developers in the market to ever do that. And in a very short period, he made a name for himself and his company raised his salary 6 times to 3,000 renminbi a month. That is a big salary sum for 1996 China. But for Xu Jiayin, he has tasted success and he's no longer satisfied with just that. So very soon he decided to strike out on his own and founded Evergrande Real Estate. Unfortunately, he couldn't have started at the worst time as it is now 1997. and the Asian financial crisis has just begun. Apart from starting during the crisis, Xu Jiayin is also cash-strapped in the project than ever before. Without the backing of his previous company, he now has to find creative way to kickstart the project. For his first project, he founded a piece of land within an industrial area. But to buy that land is a problem. And using only his social skill, he persuaded the owner to sell it to him using an installment payment scheme. Then he convinced a bank to approve a loan for him to make the first installment payment. Once money in hand, and using the strategy again of low price, small area apartments, he launched his residential project within the industrial area. The project sold out within the first day, and Xu Jiayin is on the way to the top. By 1998, an important change happened. The regulators decided to abolish the state control over where the citizens can stay. And now, the property market has become a free market. Evergrande is realizing Xu Jiayin's ambitions of becoming Evergrande. However, the property development business is still a very capital-intensive industry. And to grow the company's land bank, the fastest way is to use massive amount of debt financing. So with the help of the banks, Evergrande grew to become one of the largest private landowners by 2006 and 2007. Using debt financing is a fast way to grow the business, but it is not really sustainable. So Evergrande planned to list on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in 2008. Everything is planned and approved, but at the last minute, Evergrande stopped the IPO. Some reports suggest that due to the global financial crisis at the time, Evergrande was unable to gather enough interest for the stocks, and so it has to cancel the IPO. But the IPO was supposed to bring in 12 to 15 billion renminbi for the company. Without the new fund injection, it means Evergrande will now face a crisis of its own if it cannot find another fundraising plan. Again, using his social skill, Xu Jiayin was able to raise funds from private investors led by Chen Yutong, the Hong Kong billionaire behind the famous jewelry chain Chow Tai Fook. Besides his jewelry business, the Cheng family is one of the largest property developers in Hong Kong through his company New World Development. So, with the new cash injection, Evergrande averted the crisis for now. By 2002, the market has started to recover and Evergrande took the opportunity to go for an IPO again on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. This time, interest was stronger than ever for the stock. Apart from new investment from Cheng, other property magnates like Lau of Chinese Estate Holdings, Li Ka-shing of Chenggong, and Albert Yeo of Emperor Group have all reported to have invested into the IPO as well. The IPO was a success, and within the next few weeks, Evergrande became the largest property company listed on Hong Kong Stock Exchange, making Xu Jiayin the richest man in China. And when you're rich and successful and on top of the world, what will you do? Buy a football club, of course. That's exactly what Xu Jiayin did. In 2010, he bought over the Guangzhou football team and promised to make the team into the champion of the Asian Football Confederation, or AFC, within the next 5 years. The last Chinese group that has won the AFC championship was way back in 1989. Again, this is Xu Jiayin being overly ambitious, but again, he did it. And not once, but twice, both in 2013 and 2015. Making the Guangzhou Football Club the most successful club in the history of Chinese football. Xu Jiayin of course will not waste the huge publicity created by the club. He used the club to advertise some of Evergrande's new business venture, like Evergrande Spring, a mineral water business. Yes, during this period, Evergrande started expanding into many other new businesses. By 2016, Evergrande Real Estate changed its name to Evergrande Group and has businesses across property, tourism, finance, medical and consumer products. But of course, this was never enough. So by 2018, Xu Jiayin announced that he's looking to enter into the tech industry as well. But he did not give additional information on which area of tech was he interested in. Luckily, within the next few months, the mystery is over as Evergrande Health, one of the subsidiaries of Evergrande Group, announced an investment into Faraday's Future, an EV startup founded by another infamous Chinese entrepreneur, Jia Yueting, the previous founder of Le TV. In August 2018, Faraday's Future received a $854 million investment from Evergrande Health for a 45% stake in the company. Unfortunately, in October 2018, Faraday's Future tried to call off the deal and Jia Yuting even sued Evergrande. The deal was filled with problems and never took off. Jia Yuting himself was in a mess and had to file for a personal bankruptcy in 2019 after chalking up more than 3.6 billion US dollars in personal debt. What? Well, story for another day, as Jia Yuting is one of the most fascinating characters in the Chinese business world. Going back to Xu Jiayin, if you do not know by now, he is not one that quits so easily. So he decided to start an EV company by himself. He renamed Evergrande Health into Evergrande Auto in 2020. During the same period, the group is trying hard to explore ways to list its property arm Hengda Real Estate on the Chinese domestic stock market. Looking back now, it seems that all this new business pursuit might also be Evergrande's attempt to try to raise more money from the public market to control its overall debt level. Over the past decade, Evergrande has been growing aggressively by pushing its debt limit to the absolute limit. For many years, it has been known to be the most indebted real estate company in China. Evergrande Group has a debt level of about 52 billion in 2011 and that ballooned to more than 800 billion RMB by this year. This debt level is at least more than 2 to 3 times that of comparable companies like Country Garden or China Vanke. But to put things into perspective, having a high debt is not just an Evergrande problem. According to Bloomberg in 2020, 8 out of 10 of the most indebted property developers in the world are from China. So this is a problem for the whole sector, and the Chinese government knew that. So in 2020, the People's Bank of China and the Ministry of Housing announced that developers would need to be evaluated against 3 thresholds if they want to seek for refinancing from financial institutions. This 3 threshold is more commonly known as the 3 red lines. And the 3 red lines is that they must have a 70% ceiling on liabilities to asset, excluding any advance proceeds from projects sold on the contract, and a 100% cap on net debt to equity. And lastly, a cash to short-term borrowing ratio of at least 1. Evergrande was unable to meet any of them. With the new ruling, Evergrande was pushed to a corner, unable to refinance and raise more debt to sustain its business. The only way was to find more capital from the capital market. But to do that, you need to create exciting prospect for the market. So on the 25th September 2020, the company announced that its EV division will be seeking an IPO on the Chinese Star Exchange, and its property service group will spin off with an IPO on the Hong Kong Exchange. And a few days later, it announced that a restructuring deal was done with some of its strategic debt investors within Hengda Real Estate, the property subsidiary that was supposed to IPO on the Chinese domestic market. In the short term, it seems that its crisis was averted yet again. But money raised from all this capital exercise was far from enough. And for a property company, another fast way to raise money is by pre-selling its property. Since 2018, Evergrande has become more and more aggressive in discounting its property. There are some reports in some instances that the company was selling its property below cost, all in the hope to get cash upfront first from sales. From 2018 to the last quarter reported, its contractual obligation from property buyers ballooned to more than 2.3 trillion RMB. Together with its debt obligation, Evergrande is now owning more than $3 trillion RMB to various parties. With that, we come to the current situation where debt holders are no longer trusting Evergrande to lend them more money, and about 1.5 million property buyers are still waiting for their property. And now many of them are lining up on Evergrande's office asking for refunds. As for investors and regulators, the biggest concern is about the systemic risk if Evergrande is to fail. Being the most indebted property company in China, how will the failure of Evergrande affect the banks, the fund house, and the insurance industry of China? Fear is already spreading in the market, and it is certainly a very scary time. But the economy of a country is bigger than any one company. Just like the experience of the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers during the financial crisis, the US government decided to let the company fail, but they will not let the economy go down with it. So maybe in this case, regardless of whether the Chinese government decide to bail out Evergrande, the government will still be there to support the financial institution to prevent a complete meltdown of the economy. So to Evergrande, this might be the end of the road for the company. But for China, my expectation that this is just another temporary road bump for the economy. There is also another lesson that we can learn from this story. It seems that the difference between a legendary entrepreneur and one that's failed spectacularly is often a very thin line. For example, if Xu Jiayin was born 10 years later and entered the business world during the tech boom instead of the property boom, then he might be running a business that has high margin and produce tons of cash flow by itself. In that case, he might never need to keep on adding more and more debt to the company to fulfill his ambition. And he might become a legendary entrepreneur of China. Or if he's operating in a market like the US, he might have access to a public stock market that is more willing to fund entrepreneurs with audacious goals with ever higher stock prices. And in that scenario, he might be on par with, say, Elon Musk or Reed Hastings. To us investors though, this story reminds me from a quote from Warren Buffett. He once said that when a business with a lousy reputation meets a manager with a terrific reputation, the business reputation tends to stay intact. This means that no matter how great a business manager is, the business he or she is in will always be a greater factor to consider. It will be great if we all can find great businesses run by equally impressive manager. But if we have to choose between the two, although it is exciting to invest in aggressive and ambitious founder and manager, it is always safer to invest in a business that is just outstanding on its own. That is something for all of us to ponder upon when we choose our next investment. I hope this story will help you navigate better through the stock market. If you have gotten value from this video, please give us a like and share it with a friend who you think might benefit from it as well. If you're ready to take the next step into investing, you can also check out our free investing course at valueinvestasia.com/free-course, where you can learn practical skills of investing like reading the financial statement to how to value a stock. Anyway, that's it from me. My name is Stanley. Till we meet again, invest safely.